this is the big breaking news we are getting to you at this point in time. The criminal defamation law has been upheld in India. This is the ruling now coming in from the Apex Court, which has upheld the defamation as a criminal offence under the IPC, dismissing the petition by Subramaniam Swamy, Rahul Gandhi and Arvind Kejriwal and remember others. Rhythm, taking us to the larger implications of this. Rhythm, this is huge. This for a moment actually sets aside the kind of, argument we'd been hearing about free speech versus criminal defamation.
Absolutely. Let's first tell our viewers the court actually sat down 10 minutes back, and the breaking news that's coming in is criminal defamation continues to be on the statute books. That means it continues to be punishable with 2 years in prison. This is differing from law in other countries, including the United Kingdom, which had in fact given us criminal defamation law 155 years back. The Supreme Court has explained their judgment by stating right of freedom and speech and expression is extremely important, but it has to be in link with the individual and society goals as well. They have said one has to respect the freedom of speech and expression of individuals, but one also has to remember the dignity of an individual and the freedom of fundamental rights to life, which is also there in the Constitution. They've refused to decriminalize defamation and have stated that you have to remember both the fundamental right of speech and the fundamental right to life have to be read together. There has to be mutual respect. They've said in view of this, therefore, they have upheld criminal defamation law, which was on the statute books of the IPC, which clearly means Section 499 and Section 500 of the IPC will continue to be on the statute books. They've also stated that this batch of petitions that was filed before them, which included by Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, it included petitions by Subramaniam Swamy as well as Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, have now, they will, whatever cases they have in the lower courts will continue against them, and therefore they will have to fight it out on both grounds, civil defamation as well as criminal defamation. In fact, the top court, when they were reading out the judgment, have explained that it's a detailed judgment they've gone into. They've understood all the legal submissions. Remember here, Deepthi, the Attorney General and the central government wanted criminal defamation to continue to be on the statute book. The four reasons that the AG has stated in court were that it acts as a deterrent. In the era of social media, anyone can say anything in a fraction of a second. A reputation can be sullied. He'd also stated that there could be anarchy if criminal defamation was to go away. So a judgment coming in from the Supreme Court which is upholding criminal defamation in India.
And Rhythm, you actually mentioned a very important point. Now, the union government all along has been opposing all these petitions, essentially maintaining the stand that there is going to be anarchy in the society in the absence of these laws. So we now know where the centre actually also stands on this debate.
Well, clearly the centre today will see this as a victory, Deepthi. The reason being that they had very vociferously in affidavits in the top court as well as in statements that they stated in court had clearly stated they want criminal defamation to continue to be on the statute books. On the other side, freedom of speech and expression was the one weapon that the petitioners had. Arvind Kejriwal's lawyer Rajiv Dhawan, CP Rao, lawyer for Rahul Gandhi, as well as Subramaniam Swamy, had stated criminal defamation has a chilling effect because anyone can be imprisoned. Interestingly, in fact, of course, the United Kingdom, which gave us this law, has 6 years back decriminalized defamation. But the Attorney General and the Government of India had stated India is a very different country. Your civil defamation will take 10 to 20 years for it to come across. And therefore, they have stated that criminal defamation needs to be and now will continue to be on the statute books.
And Rhythm, there is another very important point that the Apex Court today has mentioned when the court says the right to free speech cannot undermine one's right to dignity and reputation. So the Supreme Court obviously, making that line very clear, making that demarcation very clear, and also then telling everyone who had filed that petition why perhaps there cannot be an interplay with the right to free speech here.
Absolutely. And this is what they actually ended by stating. They said there is a value of constitutional difference that has to be accepted. Defamation can only be criminal here. Defamation has to be seen independently. The raw need of defamation needs to be understood. 19.2, that is freedom of speech and expression, can be construed. However, it defeats the purpose of the forefathers of the Constitution if both right to life and right to freedom of speech and expression are not read together. While making the legal submissions, they also mentioned the fundamental right of life, which is there only in India, while upholding the constitutional validity. They've also said having, one has to have respect for the harm caused to an individual and society as a whole is also affected. Therefore, they've actually rounded up defamation by stating it's not only about an individual who is defamed or his reputation is sullied, but in the longer run, everything has to be seen together.
Okay, and Rhythm, also help us understand this, because a lot of thrust on this petition was also on having some kind of safeguards before a defamation summons is issued to anyone. Now, has the court actually gone into that field at all?
Supreme Court, in fact, has not gone into individual cases, Deepthi. What the Supreme Court has clearly stated one thing. In all the cases and the clutch of petitions that have come before them, which includes the petition of Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, includes the petition of Subramaniam Swamy, also includes the petition of Arvind Kejriwal, and all the criminal defamation cases that are pending against them, the Supreme Court has said they will continue being there in the lower courts and they will have to be fought in the lower court. In fact, what I was mentioning about right to life, the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned here, there are two types of rights in India. Fundamental rights is their fundamental right to life, and there's a fundamental right under Article 19 of freedom of speech and expression. Both have to be mutually respected. Both have to be seen together. The Supreme Court also has given a construed criminal defamation to mean it's not only criminal defamation against a person, but criminal defamation against society. So the verdict that's coming in from the top court today, extremely clear. Section 499 of the IPC, which criminalizes defamation. Section 500, which provides 2 years of prison maximum sentence for criminal defamation, will continue to be in the statute books in Indian Penal Code. It was a law there 156 years back. It continues to be in India.
And Rhythm, you know, perhaps the biggest takeaway here is the fact that all the criminal defamation cases now against Arvind Kejriwal, against Rahul Gandhi, against Subramaniam Swamy, then stand to be revived. They will individually now have to challenge these summons.
Oh yes, absolutely. And this is going to be seen as a blow to the individual cases that are pending against them. They will continue to have to be fought in the lower courts. They will have to explain the court how the reputation of the person whom they've spoken against is not sullied. So very critical for them, because all these cases will now continue facing the trial that they needed to. Remember, in India, for defamation, there is two types of law. One is a civil defamation, one is a criminal defamation. I'll give the illustration of a case in which Mr. Arun Jaitley has been dragged in, and where Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has stated some statements have been made against the finance minister, for which the Arun Jaitley has taken him to the High Court in a civil damages case. That is the civil part of defamation, and he's taken him to the Delhi lower court, the Patiala court, for criminal defamation, stating that his reputation has been sullied. Today, the Supreme Court has upheld the criminal part of defamation and clearly stated it continues to be on the statute books. Very clearly said, and they have gone on the arguments of the central government. There were 4 arguments that were made by the top legal officer of the country, the Attorney General of India. Number 1, he said it acts as a deterrent. Number 2, he said in the age of a social media, it needs to be a deterrent, and therefore criminal defamation needs to be there. Number 3, he very clearly stated scrapping the law would lead to anarchy, because anyone would say anything. And number 4, he opposed the fact that in other countries criminal defamation is not on the statute book, stating India is very different. A civil defamation case can go on for 10 to 20 years, and therefore it needs to be here. Remember also worldwide, like I did state, United Kingdom, which gave us the law 6 years back, has decriminalized defamation. 3 years back, they said the onus to prove that a person has been defamed is on the person himself. India today deferring. The law of the land clearly stated once again and elucidated by Court 4, 11:14 the bench came, they sat down, a jam-packed courtroom, 10 minutes in which they pronounced the judgment. They started off by giving out that they have noted the legal submissions of all the petitioners, of the Attorney General of India, as well as the amicus. The amicus, interestingly, in the case, had supported the government arguments. And finally, they have stated, even though Article 19(2), that is the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression, is extremely important, one also has to remember and mutually respect the fundamental right to life.
And you know, Rhythm, I also believe that according to initial information that we are learning, the Supreme Court is also actually putting out a caveat when it is telling magistrates that before you issue summons for a criminal defamation case, you must examine the plea properly. So is this actually going to be some bit of check and balance before these summons then are being issued?
Absolutely. In fact, the 10 minutes of the judgment that they were reading out, Deepthi, was very clear. It doesn't mean that anyone can defame anyone and get away with it. It doesn't mean that for every women fancy that someone has, an individual can threaten criminal defamation against a corporate or vice versa. What they are saying is this law has to be practiced with caution. And what they are saying is this law has to be practiced keeping in mind what the forefathers of the Constitution wanted, mutual respect in society. They've gone on to say that when an individual is defamed, it is the society as a whole that is also going to be defamed, and therefore it has to very crucially and critically be seen whether in fact criminal defamation stands in a case. In this case, however, this will be seen as a blow for all the criminal defamation cases that are pending against Subramaniam Swamy, against the Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, as well as Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal for various statements that they have made.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.